All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talkin Ball live postgame with Pat Leonard from MetLife Stadium, coming out of the Giants locker room. A 20-15 defeat to the Dallas Cowboys. Frustrating loss if you're a Giants fan, if you're a Giants player, Giants coach, because this is better than what we've seen in recent years. This was a closer game than what the Giants have put forth in these division rivalries, but same old story of a defeat. 0-5 now under Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen against the Dallas Cowboys. Giants have now lost 7 straight as a franchise to Dallas and 14 of the last 15. The Giants, of course, get 5 field goals, but do not put the ball in the end zone. And I went around and talked to a lot of the Giants leaders and players and asked them how they feel about going toe-to-toe with Dallas, even though they didn't get the result. And I got the same answer really across the board, which was Chris Manhertz, the tight end, who had that great fumble recovery of the opening kickoff of the second half by Tyrone Tracy. Chris Manhertz said there are no moral victories. We have to find a way to win. We're sitting at 1-3 right now, and that's where it is. Daniel Jones said we do not feel good about losing. We're frustrated. We're not discouraged because we know what we can be, but it does not feel good to lose. And no, we don't feel good about this. Dexter Lawrence said, I'm not into petty wins. I'm not going to talk about petty wins or feel like I got a victory out of this at all. Our job is to score and stop them and win the game. And they won. The scoreboard reflects they won. So, frankly, that's what I like hearing from the Giants because, there are no moral victories in pro sports. And it's not good enough because, yes, encouraging that the Giants were able to hold the ball for long amounts of time in this game, extended drive at the end of the first half there, and a remarkable thing that they were able to control possession at times, considering they could not run the ball. The Giants had 24 rushes for 26 yards in this game against the Dallas Cowboys defense that was allowing 185.7 yards rushing per game, which is worst in the NFL. So the Giants were not able to get it going on the ground. Now, they still moved the ball, right? Daniel Jones was still efficient as a passer on the day. Daniel finishes, 29 of 40 for 281. No touchdowns, however, and the interception at the end on the deep shot to Jalen Hyatt on that desperate throw. The lead headline, in addition to the loss, has to be Malik Nabers' injury, the concussion. Nabers was in the locker room after the game. He was not allowed to talk to the media when players are in the concussion protocol. They are not allowed to talk to the media. And that said, Nabers came back out to his locker near the end of the open locker room period. And Brian Burns yelled across the locker room, "Hey, Leak, you good? You straight?" And it was almost as if Burns was expecting Nabers to say, "Oh, yeah, I'm good," and it would be like a good silver lining moment. And Nabers said, "Nah." And he kind of shook his head. He gave him a little smirk, kind of like, "Hey, what are you really asking? Obviously, I got banged up." But Burns and the Giants, they were accountable. They have been, he's been an accountable leader on the defensive side of the ball after these games. But that was a concerning moment there. Obviously, it didn't tell us anything we didn't already know. But Nabers banging his face into the ground there on that fourth down incompletion. And then, you wonder, is it his neck as well? We hope he's okay. Didn't look good there. He smashed his face and his head pretty hard on the ground. The Giants do have a longer week than usual to get ready for their next game in Seattle on the road next week, given this Thursday night game. And now they have this weekend plus a full week next week before the road trip. But obviously concerned because Nabers is such a huge part of this offense and team. 12 catches on 15 targets for 115 yards to lead the team. Wan'Dale Robinson, though, also 11 catches on 14 targets for 71 yards. Wan'Dale has definitely had his most encouraging last 2 games as a Giant these last 2 weeks, so I like seeing that. We'll get right to your questions. I see the Super Chats rolling in. The Talkin Ball post-game live community is up and rolling. So I'm going to tell you real quick, we have MyBookie sponsoring the channel and the podcast and Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard post-game live. MyBookie promo code is Pat's Picks. You click on the link in any of my social media bios. You go and you make a deposit, and at the cashier, you enter the promo code PATSPICKS, and you will get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. Tonight, I gave out some props on Rico Dowdle. I believe both of my props on Rico Dowdle hit. That was the over carries and over rushing yards for Rico Dowdle. Pretty sure they both hit. He also scored a touchdown, a receiving touchdown on a screen pass. So if you stick with me, we're rolling here on MyBookie and on Talkin Ball live with Pat Leonard. Make football season a winning season with MyBookie. If you're already a member, sign up for their loyalty rewards program at MyBookie Plus. You can progress through tiers and unlock exclusive giveaways, get cash back in your account. Also sponsored here by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. Takes 10 seconds to make a delicious iced coffee with Estate 98, only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte. I know Gabe, Giants Chronicles, saying that he liked the taste as an iced coffee, and that is definitely the best way to enjoy it, as well as if you like espresso martinis or any mixers, great to use it like that as well. Go to estate98.com/talkinball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. And that's a great deal because you're basically getting a full month's supply of coffee for half the price. So it's estate98.com/talkinball. Also, of course, as you know, we are sponsored here right there by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I pour mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkinBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen here, you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. All right, D-Kit sets an example here with a super chat. If you want your comment or question answered first or to rise to the top of the queue, you purchase a super chat or a super sticker, and it will rise to the top of the thread. So, starting with D-Kit, he checks in with a $10 super chat, and he says, "Who cares, Pat? We lost because we are a loser franchise with a loser mentality. We don't make winning plays. We don't coach to win. We don't impose our will. We don't know how to win. I'm fed up." It is frustrating because while the game plan kept this game close, obviously, Deonte Banks gets toasted for the CeeDee Lamb touchdown. The Giants give up the touchdown on the Rico Dowdle screen pass. Dak Prescott, of course, started, I believe, 9 of his first 10 for 82 yards and that Dowdle touchdown. And it always feels like there's something a little bit off, right? Like if Daniel Jones makes a good throw, you have a Wan'Dale Robinson drop. If you have Darius Slayton open down the right sideline, Daniel Jones's throw is short. They did move the ball. Jones was efficient. Nabers is tough to handle. Devin Singletary had a nice 4th down conversion. Amir Smith-Marset had a nice punt return. Greg Joseph, 5 for 5 on field goals after missing that field goal in Cleveland. So, there were some good things, but it just doesn't all add up, right? That's the problem, is you're always missing that one thing. Like I was talking to Chris Manhertz about what's missing in the running game, because even Daboll couldn't stand there and talk about any progress or encouraging things without pointing out, like, we really got to figure out this running game. And obviously he doesn't have answers for it yet, or else he would have figured it out. But Chris Manhertz told me the problem with the run game right now is communication. They should not make it as complicated as they are. They have to be on the same page. And he says we shot ourselves in the foot a lot tonight. He said they left a lot of meat on the bone. So that's Chris Manhertz saying, in so many words, that when they get lined up, there's always something that maybe needs to get tweaked or adjusted at the line or figured out assignment-wise. there's something either breaking down or an assignment missed, or maybe one guy not executing his block the way he absolutely has to 100%, or maybe it's the running back at times, but something is missing in all of these runs. And really that's kind of a microcosm of the team where, some positives, but not enough, right? So to your point, D-Kit, disappointing. I think the one moment where the crowd seemed to not really love what they saw from Daboll tonight was 4th and 3, kicking the chip shot 22-yard field goal in a game, of course, where you were going to need a touchdown to win. D-Kit also says, I said to you last week, Pat, there's something wrong with Jones' arm strength. It becomes very obvious. I don't care what anyone tells me. Listen, D-Kit, I don't disagree with you. I think that asking Daboll, asking Daniel tonight about not hitting those deep shots, they weren't defending it. Like Daniel Jones said, essentially, some of those downfield throws, I've got to hit them. He said he was asked about what's going on with them, and he said, I don't know, just got to hit them. Daboll said the same thing. He said, yeah, we got to hit those. So it's kind of like the implication from them is, yeah, something's missing there, but they won't just come out and say exactly what it is. I will say, I said this before, last year when he came back off the second neck injury in Vegas, Daniel against the Raiders was throwing the ball differently in that game. I don't see him throwing it differently now necessarily. I felt like he corrected it. We saw plenty of good throws in training camp and all of that. But I wonder if that's part of it. Like, I wonder if there's something different about his mobility in his throwing motion or whatever on those throws because, you're right. They're too short. They're not good enough. Peter Splendorio, who was here with me for the New York Daily News tonight, great utility man right now for us, helping cover in the Yankees, helping cover in the Giants. Honestly, I feel a little bit bad that Peter's been doing so much work on baseball and on the Yankees. He covered the last 2 nights when they were losing, failing to clinch. Then he gets sent over here to cover a Giants game, and he watches a bunch of field goals. The Giants lose, and meanwhile, the Yankees are clinching over there in the Bronx, having a champagne party in the locker room. So I feel bad for him there. But he did great work writing about Malik Nabers tonight. Check out his story as well as my stories on the New York Daily News website. By the way, for those of you not aware, I'm the New York Daily News NFL columnist and Giants beat writer. Been doing that since 2016 here at the Daily News. Used to cover the Rangers in the NHL before that. And also grateful to be hosted here on the Believe Network and also here on the YouTube channel PL on NFL. Make sure you subscribe, like, rate, and review. All of the likes help while we are live. Hit the like button, everybody, while we are live. That helps us. And it tells Giants fans out there that there's somewhere to post-game chat to digest. It's a therapy session. It's conversation, all of that and more. But I brought up Peter Splendorio because on the free play to Slayton, it's a free play. It's an offsides on the Cowboys. And he says, why didn't he just put the ball out there? Why was that ball underthrown? It shouldn't be underthrown. You got to put it out there for him to go get. And he was right. He was absolutely right. That was something that I thought was a great point by Peter. And I think we saw it come up again in another deep shot intended for Slayton later in the game that Slayton had to come back for. But, I'm sure you guys are pointing this out in the chat too, and I'll get to more of these comments. There were drops too. Slayton had a drop in the red zone. Wan'Dale Robinson had a brutal drop there that arguably would have been a big play or AKA possibly a touchdown. You never know. All right, let's get to more questions. Tommy says, health and wealth to all. Pat, I said take from the Saints playbook and implement it. With today's game plan, unfortunately, they didn't get the memo. Double lamb, make everyone else beat you. Shaking my head, sad to see early. Yeah, it was almost like they waited too long to try to completely, take CD out of the game, right? And by that time, it was too late, essentially. So I agree with you. You were right, Tommy. They didn't listen. Chronicle says one way to define this game is missed opportunities. Agreed. Hunter says, I've got to be at work early in the morning, So I can't stay for the chat, but I will leave a few things to watch for tomorrow. I love it. Hunter said that Malik Nabers is a certified dog. Kayvon finally showed up. We are punting less, but still not putting it in the end zone. We need a tight end in the worst way. I agree there. Hunter says, also, I've seen a few people say a quarterback off an ACL tear in the knee. Is it true it takes time to build up strength for deep throws because his arm looks way weaker on a lot of throws he didn't do before? Well, it was in the load knee. Okay, the knee that he's loading on to throw. Yeah, Hunter, that's a good question. That's something to follow up on with Daniel. Didn't ask him specifically if it was the knee tonight, but can follow up on that early next week in the Seattle week. I do know I talked to Dr. David Chow. There's an interview up on the YouTube channel now with Dr. Chow where we talked about a bunch of different injuries around the league, including an update on Daniel Jones and where he stands with that knee. And I don't feel like that really came up as a hindrance based on what is normal. It's more like usually a hindrance when it comes to, cutting and moving laterally would be something that you'd be looking for. But that's something for me to follow up on. That's a really good question there, Hunter. Barbara says, Wan'Dale Robinson is too small, dropping passes. Nabers catches a bunch of 4-yard passes and couldn't finish the game. And Hyatt is a bust. Those are reasons why you don't build championships around a diva wide receiver. Well, Barbara, I would say that you're absolutely right in your assessment there of, listen, Wan'Dale's been playing well, but again, a lot of underneath stuff, right? Nabers, you're right. They haven't been able to unlock him down the field enough outside of the one 38-yarder or so today. And Hyatt, right, it's not looking good there as that third-round pick. I wouldn't call them divas, though, Barbara. I would just call them wide receivers who, Nabers is obviously an excellent player. And Wan'Dale is a player I've been very critical of, who I feel like is, he's played his best football recently. But to your point, Barbara, it has to be better from a standpoint of just get the ball in the damn end zone, right? Like at a certain point, enough is enough, and the ball just has to go in the freaking end zone, right? Let's see. Mel says, productive game, guys. There was a lot to be proud of, and the bigger picture is we're much younger and ambitious now. Keep all the YouTube blogs focused on building towards the 2025 draft. Well, Mels, that's a tricky because you're absolutely right that you still want to continue to add good young talent to the roster and build. But you can't be in a position either where you can accept constant losing, right? No matter whether it's a close game or not. And that was the takeaway I got from the Giants players tonight. They don't want to hear you only lost by 5. They don't want to hear, hey, you were close against the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, remember, Dallas was reeling coming into this game, right? They had lost 2 straight games, and they were the worst rushing defense in football coming in. So the Giants' standpoint is, you're right. The GM would want this focused on what you're talking about. But, that's a big picture thing. In the short term and in the, for the head coach, for the team like that, you can't just keep losing games, right? You do need to build. And considering the schedule coming up is Seattle Seahawks, Cincinnati Bengals, Philadelphia Eagles, Pittsburgh Steelers, you need wins. You need results. Jacob says, smack that like and sub button for the best Giants reporter in the business. Thank you so much, Jacob, for saying that. Always for being a huge supporter. By the way, everybody, listen up. I have the Estate 98 coffee trivia question coming up right around the bend. So I'm not going to jump you with it right now, but in about a minute or two, I'm going to drop the Estate 98 giveaway trivia question of the night. So for those of you who are new to this, I will ask a trivia question, a Giants-related trivia question, and If you get it correct first in the chat, you will win a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee. It will be mailed directly to you. You'll send your address to my Instagram account. DM me on Instagram, PL on NFL when you win, and I will have a bottle sent out to you. All right. Let's see. Let's get to the next question here. All right. The next question in the queue. Michael Knight says, good evening, Pat. Can't run the ball. Play calling did not help, and all the drop passes. Brett says, where is Jalen Hyatt? I know. Disappointing. Jalen Hyatt, only 13 snaps again in this game. Even with Darius Slayton having a bad thumb. Still, Jalen Hyatt not getting on the field much. Interestingly, at the end when Daniel Jones threw that interception, Brian Daboll said something about, he goes, yeah, on the interception, you're throwing it down there, see if we can get a DPI, like a defensive pass interference, or like a contested catch or ball. And the implication was if you watch that play, the ball goes up, Hyatt goes deep for it, but does not get to the ball, does not come back to the ball, doesn't challenge the ball for the Amani Oruwariye interception. By the way, really nice pick by Amani Oruwariye, the former Giant, who recommended good golf courses, by the way, when he was here with the Giants. So grateful to him for that. Also a good friend of Saquon Barkley's. All right. Dave says Daboll is overrated as a play caller. Brett says bring Turbo back. Yeah, they have to figure out something on these returns, right? Another fumbled kickoff tonight. Crazy recovery there by Chris Manhertz, who, by the way, Manhertz swears that he saw that ball as it was coming back to him to recover it. Tommy DeVito and I were calling him out on that, saying there's absolutely no way that ball just hit you in the chest and you were lucky that that it flew right there. Manhertz claims he saw it and caught it, so we'll have to see the replay. I did talk to Tyrone Tracy, who got benched and demoted from kickoff after that fumble. He basically said, obviously you don't want that to happen, and I have to protect the ball at all costs. I was just trying to make a play, but there's no excuse. I have to protect the ball. So I agree. I think Turbo deserves a shot. Brett says, do something differently. Hyatt, Tracy, Turbo, Bellinger can't run, can't win. Jones played well again. Daniel played efficiently and played pretty well in a lot of ways. But you don't get in the end zone. You're right. The running game hurts because they're in a lot of second and third and longs. Thanks to the lack of a running game. That's a really tough part. So that doesn't help Daniel. Also drop passes. But like we said, some meat on the bone on those deep throws too. Your boy Javi says, overall, the Giants are not a good team. Their losing culture starts at the top. They messed up years ago by firing Coughlin and not Reese. Ownership's mindset is off. Joey B says, this is some bullshit. I can imagine Joey B not being pleased because, listen, I like where your guys, largely your head's at and where the players' heads are at. And listen, my job is just to ask the question, but I thought it was a good thing that the Giants players were saying, this is not good enough. I like that because the only way you become a team that does have a better culture and does get back to a winning tradition is by understanding and admitting that this is not good enough. Just playing tough against a division opponent is not good enough. 0 for 5 against the Dallas Cowboys as a regime is horrendous. Jim Osborne says we lost the game in the trenches. We couldn't run on the worst run defense, averaged 1 yard a carry, and we couldn't stop their run. Barbara says Joe Shane and Eagles guy Brandon Brown got to go. They have no idea how to build a championship team in New York. Bill says I finally found a group of Giants fans in Southern California to hang out and watch games with, and we suck again. Damn it. Hey, Bill, at least you have some people to commiserate with, right? That's a step. Bombo says, looking sharp pregame, Pat. Thank you, Bombo. Yeah, hey, listen, I don't want to brag, but I felt good about my Sal Loretta's fit tonight. That's, by the way, that's Sal Loretta for Men in Midland Park, New Jersey. Any of you guys in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area, go check out Sal Loretta's. in Midland Park. They have amazing clothing for men. If you're trying to look sharp, Salarette is the spot. He says, I wasn't happy about it. By the way, if you guys don't know, I do arrival videos for me and the players every Sunday. Put some music to it, or every game. It's a lot of fun, so check it out. Bombo says, I wasn't happy about it in the offseason, and now every week that passes, I'm feeling more and more like releasing Xavier and Saquon and spending that money on Burns was a mistake. You need more from Burns. He was in the backfield a lot tonight, but ended up not making a ton of plays. I felt like the Cowboys were steering him. Like they weren't blocking him easily, but they were steering him away. Dak was, maneuvering out of the way. Burns had 3 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB hit. Giants only had 1 sack tonight from Kayvon Thibodeau. Thibodeau was active at times, drew a couple holding penalties, had a sack, but again, not good enough. Barbara makes a good point here, points out that the Giants dominated time of possession. Yes, they did have the ball 35 minutes and 37 seconds. Cowboys had it 24 minutes and 23 seconds. That's what's crazy. It's crazy for a team to dominate possession without running the ball. That you don't usually see that. Usually when teams are throwing the ball well, they're moving it a little quicker and scoring more points rather than, to throw the ball more and average 1 yard a carry and have it for 35 minutes and only score 15 points. It's a strange stat line. Let's see. D-Kid says, my disappointment knows no bounds with this team. Bill Hartnett says, you should have been around in 1974. We were basically the Panthers. D-Kid says, I was around in 74, Bill. I still have my John Mendenhall jersey. Barbara says, Danny Dimes was straining to throw the ball deep. Try lock, maybe. I don't know anymore. You know what was interesting? By the way, Bill says back to D-Kit, nice. I forgot you were a member of the old man crew like me. NYC, what's up? Good to see you. Yeah. So something crossed my mind there. I forgot what I was going to say. I'll come back to it. Hooks, what's up, Hooks? Says drops, penalties, phantom penalties, no run game, not throwing the ball into the end zone when we were there hurt us in this game. Yeah, you guys definitely saw you were able to break this down pretty effectively, it seems. Bill says Giants consistently throw behind the sticks instead of ahead of them, and it's really annoying. Yeah, Daboll has a lot of ways to get the ball in space in short catch and runs, but there's nothing really deep. There's not a lot deep, right? Like it's just not enough. You need to make explosive plays in this league. You just do. Yeah, Barbara says too many 4-yard passes to Neighbors, no yak either. Mickey says Daniel Jones can't throw the ball deep. What do you guys think? I see Barbara said earlier that you might as well try Drew Lock to try to throw more deep balls. Do you think that that's a prudent thing? Or, with Daniel Jones being efficient, even though he's not hitting those, do you think just kind of keep running Daniel Jones back and like it'll hit eventually? What do you guys think about that? Oh, that's what I wanted to bring up, Barbara. Thank you for jogging my memory here on this. You know what was interesting? You guys should go back and look before the game. Albert Breer, who is kind of the contributing analyst for Amazon right now, and Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, both put out reports about essentially promising progress that Daniel Jones is showing and indications about what that could mean for him possibly as remaining the franchise quarterback here. I thought that was very interesting to see. There's a lot of PR pushing going on around the Giants, in the Giants, from people connected to the Giants or maybe player agents around the Giants, right? Like there's a lot going on there. I just thought that was very interesting, and I think you guys should check those reports out. They'll be online. One was like a spot on the Prime broadcast that was on social media from Amazon Prime Video. And then another was an NFL Network segment pregame. Let's see. NYC says, what's up, Pat? What's with the seemingly systemic acceptance of excuses at 1925 Giants Drive? Simply put, why are we the way that we are? Go Irish. Go Irish is right, NYC. Appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, that's really good question. I think that there are a lot of people. This isn't just the Giants either, NYC. People who work for these organizations do a lot of trying to justify their own evaluations, where they fall in love with the players that they drafted or that they have, and they form relationships with those players, and they like them as people and representatives of their organization. And then, they see them do some good things on the field, and they feel like it justifies things. And, it kind of tends to snowball sometimes where, maybe you can't see the forest from the tree through the trees all the time. In other words, hey, there are some encouraging things. However, the overall product and the progress is not good enough, right? And so I think the Giants often struggle to understand fully and accept who they are and what they are. And then the way that they proceed is flawed because their evaluation of themselves is inaccurate. That's usually what I see. Let's see. All right. Yeah, Hook agrees with Bill on Wandale with the catch and run. He says, I like Wandale, but he can't make everyone miss every time. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like a limited usage skill set in the way that these guys are used in this offense at the moment. Bill says Daniel Jones was throwing him into danger. Brady talked about it. You can't throw the ball that will get your guys hurt, and now he's concussed. Well, throwing him into danger maybe, but also, Daboll was just dialing up play calls left and right for Nabers. So I think it's play calling. It's also the quarterback. What are you leading the guy into? Really, Bill, it's just from a big picture standpoint, isn't their offense completely reliant on Nabers? Listen, they have a long week here, so hopefully he's better for the Seattle game. But what does their offense look like without Malik Nabers if he can't play in that game? Like, there's just so much relying on him. And I don't know if you guys could see this watching on television, but here at the stadium, it became very clear in the early second half or so, or mid third quarter, that Nabers physically was starting to wear down. And you could see the hits starting to take their tolls a little bit more, right? Did you guys notice that? He was getting up slower. His teammates had to kind of run over and pick him up off the ground. So I don't think necessarily the Giants adjusted to that enough as far as not targeting him as much necessarily. But also, again, like, their offense runs through him. Christopher A. says losing tonight's game was worse than getting blown out. I tried to not be too hopeful, but secretly I was excited up until that interception at the end, shaking my head. Let's see. D-Kid says, I have news for all of you. This team is mired in a loser mentality. We don't make plays, throws, tackles. We don't know how to win. Bill says, looking sharp, Pat. Thank you so much, Bill. Really appreciate that. Barbara says, Pat, I'm sad. No medals for trying. Yeah, no doubt. I'm just trying to be fair to them because I've seen a lot worse. But I agree. I mean, if I were a player, I'd be saying the same thing. Alex says, so sad the coach is good with a loss and accepting losing. Alex, that's an interesting point by you, is that even though Daboll said the loss still hurts, he did not sound the same way as all the players. I think that's a really good point. All the players were like, there's no moral victories. Daboll's like, I see progress here. Now, there is progress in the fact that they were competitive in this game compared to other things. But I think that's an interesting point by you for sure. All right, I'm going to read this super chat, and then we're going to get into the queue. Or no, I'm going to read this super chat, and then we are going to do the Estate 98 coffee trivia. Wow, a lot of questions in the queue here. You guys are rolling. All right. Welvin said, Newbin and Banks look bad. O-line pass pro looks great. Pass protection was a positive in this game. Pass protection was definitely a positive in this game. I think it was by far the best we've seen the Giants O-line and front handle this Dallas Cowboys version of their defensive line and pass rushers, right? So I agree. The best that they have handled them. But unfortunately, still don't get in the end zone. Bill with the super chat says, yes, completely reliant on Malik Nabers. Great point. But you can't keep throwing to him when he'll get blown up. Now he's going to be out, so what's left? No, great point. Especially like, Bill, the play that Daniel really shouldn't have thrown him the ball was on the shallow cross over to the right in the red zone. You could see the defender bearing down on that, and he still threw it. Now, it's hard, though, too, because Nabers is a guy who can make people miss. So it's like, okay, give him a chance to make a guy miss. But that was a play where he shouldn't have given it to him. He was going to get blown up there. All right, time for the Estate 98 trivia question of the night. The Giants last beat the Dallas Cowboys in 2020. Name the two defensive players on the Giants in that game who were tied for the team lead in tackles. The Giants last beat the Dallas Cowboys in 2020. Name the two defensive players who tied for the team lead in tackles in that game. Put the answer in the comment section. The first person to answer with both names correct wins a bottle of Estate 98 coffee. This is not as hard as the one last time. Our trivia question last time had everybody stumped. Caden Smith was killing you in that last trivia question last time. I was proud of that one. Authentic. What's up, Authentic? Authentic says Logan Ryan and Adrian Colbert. No, great guess, but no. Barbara says McKinney and Dex. I don't know. No. Michael Knight says Landon Collins and Blake Martinez. No, incorrect, but good guesses all around. Let's see who's going to come in with the correct answer. D. Kit says Collins and Ryan. No. Let's see. McKinney and Darnay Holmes. No. All right. I will. Man, I've been getting you guys lately. This is two chats in a row. I've been stumping the chat. I'm proud of myself. Felt like I was making them too easy early on. Let's see. Authentic wins. Tay Crowder and Blake Martinez is the answer. Tay Crowder and Blake Martinez. Authentic, I think you've won. I think you may have won before, but make sure you DM me your address on Instagram. Send me your address on Instagram. DM me on IG, PL on NFL, and you get a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee. Hey, it doesn't matter if he looked it up. It took like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever. At that point, anything is fair game. Let's be fair. So, Simeon, the question was, who were the two Giants defensive players who led them in tackles, tied with 11 tackles apiece, the last time the Giants beat the Cowboys in 2020? And yes, it was Tay Crowder and Blake Martinez. All right, I'm going to try to get through more of the queue here. This is actually a good time to remind you guys of our sponsors again. MyBookie.ag. Please open an account on MyBookie and use my promo code PATSPICKS. It will get you a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. You click on the link in any of my social media profiles or bios. Click on that MyBookie link and enter that promo code when you make your deposit. You'll get that deal. If you bet my props tonight, you would have hit Rico Dowdle over yards and over carries. They both hit. So you're welcome. I hit on Wan'Dale Robinson over receiving yards last week. You're welcome. Have more Pat's picks coming this weekend. Stay tuned for those coming on my social channels, courtesy of MyBookie. But really, if you're looking to bet underdogs, overs, props, parlays, whatever it is, go to MyBookie. If you're already there, They have a new loyalty rewards program, MyBookie Plus. They have risk-free Thursdays. If your boosted bet doesn't hit on Thursdays, you get money back. Weekly no sweats, win-win bets all season long. Make football season a winning season with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Also, Estate 98 coffee. You saw Authentic just win a bottle of Estate 98 coffee with our trivia. We do trivia every Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard live and Postgame live. It's delicious. It works great as an iced coffee. Works great as a hot coffee or latte. You can make it 10 seconds. You can make an iced coffee, or good as a mixer in like an espresso martini, popular drink, one I enjoy very much. Go to estate98.com/Talkin Ball to get a special buy one, get one free deal on this all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar. And also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants, and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally feel a post-workout-like energy boost when I take Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkinBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you'll get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. That's boomchaga.com. Go to subscribe and save. Purchase a bag using the Talkin Ball 25 code. You'll get the discount, and then you don't have to stay subscribed. You can cancel. No harm, no foul. There won't be any penalties. You can just cancel the subscription. I do think you'll stay with it if you subscribe, because I think you'll like the product. But that's just a reminder to you guys. You can get a great deal there. Do it with the subscribe and save offer. All right. Let's get back in the queue. And if I see repeat questions, I'll try to jump past them just to make sure I try to get through the queue as much as possible tonight, because I see a lot of people weighing in. You Giants fans are diehards. It is 1:23 a.m. on September 27th, 2024, and we've had basically 125 people in here, 130, over 100 still consistently throughout the chat, going 45 minutes strong almost. Really proud of the community we're building here, and it continues to grow. For those of you who are new, I'm the NFL columnist and Giants beat writer for the New York Daily News, and also host of Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard and Talkin Ball Live with Pat Leonard on the Believe Network. Always can find us here on the YouTube channel, PL on NFL. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or anywhere you get your audio podcast on the Believe Network, please feel free to tune in on the YouTube channel next time live with us. And thank you for listening on the audio version as well. Thank you so much. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, doing all that. All right, let me get back in the queue here. Hook said we should have won, bottom line. John says, Pat, why is Daboll not addressing the running back fumbles? It's every week. I think it's just a personnel thing. I mean, these are the guys on their team, you know. One thing Saquon Barkley did not do a lot of is fumble, for sure. Optimal calls Devin Singletary Fumbletary. Ouch. Let's see. Jacob says, Pat, the people shitting on Daniel Jones are crazy. The amount of drops is nuts. What else can Jones do? There's enough blame to go around, right? For sure. But yeah, you have to mention the drops when you talk about the team not getting in the end zone. That's absolutely true. Let's see. Optimal also points out that Daniel sometimes overthrows balls. Obviously, there were some underthrows today, too. Barbara says Shane needs to draft better. We don't make any difference making plays. I agree with that. The drafts haven't been good enough. Optimal says deep ball is non-existent. Field average yards per throw is 6 yards. Jacob says still Wandale dropped first down catch. Slayton's second drop was on the money. Chowski says it's a shame we are overusing Malik like this just to possibly edge out a win. Poor offense. See, that's a great point, Chowski. I'm glad you said that. doesn't everything look so difficult for the Giants on offense? Doesn't it everything just look like an absolute like grind? And it's a grind, it's a slog, right? Like, and even when they're making progress, it's like, oh my God, could we just have one play where it looks easy for them, right? I mean, right? That's a great point, Chowski. And listen, this goes back to the point of, listen, forget whether you're where you fall on Saquon as a player or whatever. But we've said this a lot on this channel, but I think it bears repeating. Saquon Barkley plus Malik Nabers would have augmented this offense. But adding Nabers and subtracting Saquon, right? Does that give Daniel Jones the best chance? You want to load up to give him the best chance. You don't want to subtract a great weapon to add one. Maybe that's part of the reason why you're so over-reliant on somebody. Jacob says Wan'Dale had 2 or 3 drops that were on the money. Yeah, unfortunately, so on First Down with Benny Fowler, our podcast that's up on the channel now, our review of week 3 in the NFL, Benny was pointing out one thing that impressed him about Nabers was that he catches the ball with his hands, that he's a really good hands receiver, all hands. And there are a lot of receivers in the NFL, even really good ones, who catch with their bodies and their hands. Like Benny said, he would catch with his body. He said Emmanuel Sanders, who was a great receiver, caught with his body a fair amount. Wan'Dale Robinson catches with his body a fair amount. So you see some drops. John says Wan'Dale needs to stop failing to get the first down. Your boy Javi says the Giants run a mediocre operation organizationally, and that's being kind. They quit on young talent, overpay for good but not great, draft average players they can't develop. John says Wan'Dale's always a yard short. Big Mike says Joe Shea needs to be fired before he messes up our quarterback position. Optimal says Slayton also, if Daniel Jones leads that throw to Nabers in the first quarter, that's a possible touchdown. I agree. You can't just layer that throw into a wide open Nabers. You have to lead him. Barbara also says we need a tight end. Theo Johnson is just a project. Let's see. Optimal says John Mara needs to step down. John says Tay Banks is overrated. I like Tay Banks a lot, but he's having a really tough start to the year. Also, didn't love the finish on the CeeDee Lamb touchdown. Didn't love it. Need to see more there. Michael says Daniel Jones would be an average quarterback if he could just hit the deep ball. Jackson says, I'm going to fight with my team to the end. Optimal points out that the Giants need Adoree Jackson and Drew Phillips back ASAP at corner. Optimal says there is no fight left. Let's see. All right, let's get to some more McKinney. Some more. Adam Green says he misses Xavier McKinney. I agree. That was a good player. The Giants definitely underrated him. No doubt about it. Let's see. Dave G says, at least I have my Yankees. Yeah, way to go, Yanks, clinching, hopefully an exciting fall run coming from the Yanks. That would be great to see. The football season, at least for Giants fans, not heading the way that anybody wants to see. So I definitely think that we're all rooting for a Yankee run, and then obviously Rangers, Knicks coming up. Simeon says we all knew this was going to be a long and disappointing season. Unfortunately, that is what it looked like. Barbara says, Bill, you're definitely right. Daniels Dimes is underthrew Nabers on the long one on the sidelines that he caught. It should have been a TD. Yeah, he did. It was almost like, hey, I just have to make sure this is completed because he's so open. But if you put it out in front of him, could he have scored, right? Let's see. John says Burns' contract looks a lot worse than Daniel Jones' contract at the moment. Barbara also points out that Julian Love was good too. Yeah, and they'll see Julian Love and Leonard Williams next week in Seattle. Let's see. Mike Ross says, can Darius Slayton not drop the ball for once? Playing with a bad thumb, but, either, basically coaching staff's job, player job, everybody's job is, hey, if you're playing, you got to make the play. Really, that's what it comes down to. Optimal says Flott played well, but gave up that big TD play to CD. That was Tay Banks who gave up that touchdown to CD. Flott played better today, forced some incompletions on some stop routes. Also gave up some as well, though. Played better, but not well enough, if that makes sense. Jackson thinks the Giants can beat Seattle. That's a tough place to win. They will be facing a rookie head coach, but it's a pretty good team, and Seattle's had their number. Barbara says Giants scored as many points as Eagles did Sunday and still lost. Yep. This was at home, too. Eagles were on the road. John says the Giants defense as a whole can't tackle in the open field. It's pathetic. Mike says, what's your perspective on why the average depth per target is so low, even with a good offensive line? Mike, I think it's because the O-line is better, but if you notice, Daboll still does protect them with a fair amount of screen passes and also tends to keep in at least one, sometimes two extra blockers to kind of max protect. So they don't always have as many receivers running routes. So sometimes there's not a ton of receivers running routes, so they don't have as many guys downfield. So like if you have a 2-man route or a 3-man route max on a lot of plays, then a lot of those plays you either have one or none going deep, depending on what it looks like. And then also, Hyatt, who is one of their top 4 receivers, is purely a deep threat, is not playing, really. 13 snaps. So then, like Wan'Dale Robinson is not a deep threat, right? He's an underneath receiver. He does it well, but he's underneath. So now you're only talking about 2 guys on your roster who can go deep. And Nabers is a guy who they're shadowing and shading over top with a safety. Like Dallas would consistently shade their safety over to Nabers. So then he's running more underneath. So it was really tonight, it was essentially Slayton here and there, and that was it. Other than Nabers getting behind the Cowboys secondary corner there on that one play. So I hope that explains it. But also you see, Daniel Jones has to let some of these rip. Like there was a play where Hyatt got open in a window against the zone downfield, and Daniel threw it underneath the Wan'Dale as he was moving to his right. Like to me, that's just a vision thing. I don't know why he didn't throw it to Hyatt on that play. And then your depth per target. I mean, I think Daboll is trying to, with his team, like in this game, you saw the ball control is a strategic element of it. Like it goes back to 2022, where it was like, okay, our defense personnel isn't great. We can't force them to play a ton of this game. So we've got to try to control the ball, keep them off the field. Even if we're only kicking field goals, it's still better than continuing to give the ball back to the other offense and giving them more cracks at our defense. So the ball control element is, better than taking shots and going 3 and out and putting your defense back on the field tired to give up a touchdown. So I mean, it's a frustrating way to evaluate how your team is playing because you don't want to play conservatively and you don't want to not take shots. But those are all the contextual elements that I hope can give you an answer to why they play how they play. Hook says Hyatt needs his chance now. Optimal says Daboll and Shane need their quarterback. Mike says he's losing hope on Daniel Jones. Aziki says Banks' coverage on CD's TD was pathetic and embarrassing. He even gave up on the play once the ball was caught. Didn't even try to chase him. Yeah, I didn't love that, the end of that play. Did not love that play. Got some texts from people about that play. People noticing, watching on television, people in the league saying, who was that not finishing that play, chasing CD Lamb? So I did not get a chance to talk to Banks in the locker room afterwards. He was in there. He did do some interviews. I just didn't catch him. Let's see. Jackson says Dallas played their best and barely won. Dallas did not play their best. Definitely not. Barbara says she's a Notre Dame fan too. All right. Barbara, I went to Notre Dame, class of 06, Dillon Hall. Running game issues are fumbling and, 1.1 yards per carry. Mike says, not starting to lose hope, but still very concerned about Daniel Jones and leaning towards finding his replacement. Well, they were trying to find his replacement last offseason. So very interesting, though. Like I said, go back and look at those news reports before the game from NFL Network and from Amazon. Really interesting. Let's see. Yeah, what is with the fumbles on kick returns lately? That Michael Gabriel, their special teams coordinator, has to answer to that. So does Brian Daboll with personnel deployment. Mike says the refs love helping the Cowboys and Chiefs. Face mask on Bellinger was terrible and negated a possible touchdown drive for a field goal. It was clearly not a face mask. I don't know why they didn't use replay to fix it. I don't know either. That was strange. But I disagree with your, the officials love the Cowboys thing there. I mean, I'm sure you watched the same game I did, but the Cowboys had 11 penalties. They had 9 penalties in the first half. 9. And listen, it's not even the refs. Like Dallas is always undisciplined. They always commit a ton of penalties. But I mean, yeah, that call was a terrible call. The Giants got screwed there. I don't know what that was, that penalty call for sure. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely plenty of calls went against the Cowboys in this game. No doubt about it. Let's see. I'm going to stay in the queue here, guys. If you have a question or a comment that I haven't answered and you want to make sure I get to, throw up a super chat or super sticker, and I will find it. Tim wants to know if the Giants will put an end to their 13-game slide against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Good question, Tim. I think injuries will have a lot to do with that on both sides. I mean, the Cowboys really got banged up tonight. Micah Parsons with that leg injury carted off. That's a big deal. Trayvon Diggs, that was dehydration. But, injury is going to have a lot to do with it. Like, for example, the Giants' offensive line is pretty healthy right now. Will it be healthy for Thanksgiving, right? Will Malik Nabers be healthy? Will CeeDee Lamb be healthy? Because to me, I think, I think that'll have a lot to do with it. Like I would say, if both teams are relatively healthy with their key players, the Giants don't win the game. I think if the Cowboys are really banged up and the Giants are still healthy, they have a chance. It's going to be harder to score a touchdown on the road than it is here, I'll tell you that. And they didn't score a touchdown here. By the way, how good is DeMarvion Overshawn, the linebacker for the Cowboys? Now, this guy was at the Senior Bowl 2 years ago, played at Texas. And he's one of those guys where, like, you ever been in a basketball gym and you see somebody walk in from a team that's playing in a game and that's upcoming in a tournament, and you just look over and you say, who the heck is that? That's what Overshawn is. Like, looks like a great athlete and looks like a guy who you're like, man, I'll take, if you're playing flag football at recess, you're like, I'll take him. And he was hurt and out all last year. Man, that guy can play. Big-time player, DeMarvion Overshawn. John says DJ hasn't had a deep threat in a very long time, and his previous neck injuries are causing his inaccuracy. Simeon says Chad Pennington's arm was weaker, but he could anticipate when to let the ball go much better. Let's see. Mickey says this was a winnable game, just like the Commanders game, and let it get away. NYC says, be right back, about to try to breathe through a pillow underwater in a plastic. NYC. Oh, my goodness. Sounds like a Sopranos reference. Let's see. Optimal wants to know why trade up for Jalen Hyatt and not utilize him. That's definitely going to be one of the many questions for Joe Shane when he presumably does his annual bye-week press conference. Evan says the Giants franchise is lost. Andre says drops were big, but the Giants don't seem to throw the ball in the end zone. Diggs was hurt, and they didn't even go at his replacement. Yeah, that was a pretty good throw by Daniel, I thought. I thought Darius Slayton should have caught that. So, I mean, it wasn't a perfect pass, but it was a catchable ball. He should have caught it. Mike says zero aggression, had all the opportunities in the red zone. Montana, New York says, Pat, what is your thought on the overall offensive play calling? Montana, I think Daboll shows an ability to be able to scout what the opposing defensive coordinator likes to do and is vulnerable at. And he has, coming into these games, some play calls and protections drawn up to attack those like pressures or blitzes and to try to take advantage of them and like counter them when he sees them coming in certain situations. So, for example, there was a play tonight where Mike Zimmer sent a corner blitz from Daniel's left, and the Giants had Singletary stay in on purpose to specifically pick that up. Like they knew it was coming based on the down and distance and situation. They saw it, and he protected him, and he ripped the throw out to the left, I think, for a completion. And so also a lot of catch and run schemes. But Daboll does have some he has favorite things he goes back to, like the shallow cross for Nabers. Teams know that now. Like you saw the way that the Cowboys anticipated that in the second half, and it led to like a really big collision there and a big hit on Nabers. That's going to happen when you keep running the same thing. I think they are drawing up some deep shots. I will say this. I do not like the throwback deep shots that he's calling. Like he's called that twice in the last 2 weeks now. And both times in the Cleveland game, right. So like it should have been intercepted tonight. The throwback to Nabers in this game should have been intercepted. And then last game in Cleveland, he should have been intercepted, and Nabers had to knock it down. It was a throwback to Theo Johnson, the tight end, and had to be knocked down, right? So I don't like that play. I say scratch that. I say stop using it, get it out. I don't like it. So what do you guys think of the play calling? I mean, clearly the biggest weakness, and Daboll said this after the game, the biggest weakness is they can't run the ball. And, of course, not getting the ball in the end zone is the biggest weakness. That's the biggest problem. But, so scheming up runs that can function, like scheming up runs that'll work for your offense. I mean, for all the talk that I'm saying about him anticipating what defenses are going to throw at him and, trying to counter it and all of that, I mean, you kind of got to be able to figure out a way to run the ball on the NFL's worst running defense. Like you can't figure out a way. They average 1.1 yard per carry today. Mike says, in no world should the Giants defense have to pitch a shutout every game for us to have a chance. Offense has to actually take accountability and make changes, no doubt. Yep, and he's the play caller. Let's see. None of the receivers make game-changing plays other than Nabers, says Evan. Let's see. Simeon says Hyatt hasn't had enough opportunities to be called a bust just yet. Jackson says we need Devontae Adams. I would trade a first-round pick for him. Mike says, can you ask the team for me why there aren't end zone shots being taken and dialed up? Is it DJ not throwing it, or is it Daboll not drawing it up correctly? Good question, Mike. I will ask. There's nothing productive about not scoring a touchdown, says Optimal. Well said. Hakeem says, do you think the ball should have been spread out? Using only 2 wide receivers 90% of the time seems to be limiting. Yeah, no, I think, as much as that reflects encouraging production for those players, it also reflects that they don't have other options. They're getting nothing out of the tight end position. And listen, Joe Shane has spent 2 mid-round draft picks and a 3rd-round pick as well in a trade on a tight end. So he drafted Daniel Bellinger in the 4th, he drafted Theo Johnson in the 4th, and he traded a 3rd for Darren Waller. That's 3 tight end acquisitions with picks in 3 years. And they have nothing in the receiving game for their receivers. The best receiver is Chris Manhertz because of his blocking ability. Jackson says, I like your professionalism. You are a great talent. I am flattered, Jackson. Thank you. Optimal says, Nabers' workload too much right now. He will eventually wear and tear. Spread the wealth. Evan says, the defense has a hard time stopping the run. Jones wasn't terrible, but not good enough. Another loss. Their defense is not good enough against the run. That is well said. All right, we got another super chat coming in. Let's see. Let's get down here. I got the little ping. I see a bubble pop up. Let's see. Oh, I got a nice little $2 there from Bill. Says, just saying thanks for the show, Pat. Bill, thank you so much, man. You're always checking in like that. I appreciate that. Mark says, Daboll play calling was impressive. Time to move Neal to guard to get running game going. Hands tied with no running game. That's an interesting idea, Mark. I actually asked, I have to go back and find that answer. I asked Carmen Brasillo if they would consider Evan Neal to help their running game a couple of weeks ago. And he said something like, Evan's doing his turn, waiting, working hard. He is a good run blocker, but, we like our group or whatever it was. That's a really interesting point, Mark. I'm actually going to jot that down. See, I always say this. I learn as much from you guys in these as you guys learn from me, because that was not something at the top of my mind coming out of this game, but you're absolutely right. That's a really good question. Of course, can you sacrifice your pass protection for that is the question. But, Mark, you're getting to – now this is another frustrating thing about Giants fans in recent years – or teams in recent years, Giants teams. But, like when Jason Garrett was here, okay, I know that name gives you shivers. When Jason Garrett was here, there were a lot of times where they would run plays that were predictable based on the personnel on the field. But the way Garrett felt, it was like, well, I don't want to be predictable, but if I know that there's only one way to run this one play effectively with this personnel, so I want to run the play the best way it can be. So I'd rather have the best personnel on the field for the play and be predictable than try to disguise it but have guys who can't execute. So that's the change. But I bring that up to say, you're not going to put Evan Neal on the field if you don't trust him to protect Daniel Jones in a passing downs. But maybe you put him on as a 6th offensive lineman on rundowns, and even if the defense knows it probably means a run, or maybe you put him on the field as an extra lineman instead of one of these tight ends who's not giving you anything in the passing game anyway. Not a bad idea, Mark. Kind of like it. I'm giving Mark, by the way, just as everyone in the chat has chipped in, like D-Kit chipped in on some good questions and trends coming in. I think it was Mark and Dave also, Dave. But so Mark right now, if Evan Neal is on the field next week, Mark Sullivan is the reason why. Just telling you right now. Brett says the answer, let's see. DJ Baby Fat Davidson. The question is, who do we need to replace? Let's see. I don't know what that was in reference to, something I was talking about earlier. But, yeah, not a good player. Simeon says, if Jones puts the ball in the end zone in front of Jalen Hyatt, it's a touchdown. Optimal says, are there any veteran quarterbacks available at the moment? You mean like on the trade market? Listen, Ryan Tannehill's still a free agent. I mean, they're not replaced. Like, I got to look at what your guys' answers were about whether you want to see some Drew Lock. But when Daniel Jones plays an efficient game like this, you better believe that lots of people in the Giants organization think that he played great, even though they didn't get in the end zone. Definitely, that is what people, I'll check into what sources around the building think, but, I can promise you that. But that's an interesting dilemma, right? I could easily see plenty of people in the Giants building saying Daniel's playing great. I could see some others saying we're not scoring any touchdowns. We need to score touchdowns. Lucas says, besides last week, we've been exposed at defensive tackle next to Dexter and depth when Dexter is out. Yeah, Dex had a quiet game today too. Cowboys interior really handled him. And, yeah, I mean, this is something I and many of you saw coming from a mile away. Their interior is not good enough. They can't stop the run. They're not a good run defense. All right, let's see. All right, what do we got? Mark, thanks again for that super chat. All right, let's get back in the queue. Yeah, sorry about that. Jackson was contributing some comments, but he was really kind of spamming the chat. So I just kind of, that's the first time I've ever put someone in a timeout, but it was really clogging things up. And I want to make sure I get to as many comments as possible. We're an hour 12 in. I'm trying to get through the chat to all of you loyal followers and listeners here. Almost 2 a.m., still over 100 people in here. You guys are the best. Optimal says, move players around and stock up on draft capital at this point. Let's see. Brett says, we can beat the 85 Bears next game. Guaranteed we're going in rested and pissed. Maybe just me. Maybe. Tough place to play in Seattle. Hakeem says, who effing cares about time domination when you can't capitalize? No doubt. No doubt. Barbara is very upset over the losing. I can understand that, Barbara. Brett says, how did Dex do against Beebe? I wanted to get him. Yep, I thought the Giants should have drafted Cooper Beebe. Cowboys interior offensive line looked good tonight, and Dexter was very quiet. Dexter was double-teamed the whole game. He's double-teamed every game. Bill says, I don't need all deep balls. I need first downs and not 4th and 1s. Barbara needs 4 TDs and wins. Eric says, our fan base is terrible, ungrateful, and disloyal, and we wonder why our karma is terrible. Banks got picked on the entire first half, the drops, but blame the guy who threw for almost 300 yards. Optimal says, that's ignorant. We've been waiting 6 years for Danny to get his act together. Eric, I don't think people are ungrateful to Daniel after a game. I think, I do think it's unfair to just pin it on him, obviously, especially with the drops. But I do think it's fair in context, Eric, to point out, like, they didn't score a touchdown today, right? So that is on the quarterback as well as on receivers, play calling, everything, right? The running game. The running game's a huge part of it. So I think Daniel's a part of it, but obviously, to your point, a lot of other things went wrong. But, Eric, I do think it's okay to be critical. Like, it doesn't make you ungrateful to be critical. I think being critical of a team when it's not good enough is, fans wanting it to be better. But I see your point of view, too, for sure. And also, I would say this. The Giants players sounded as critical as anything. I mean, they didn't want to hear bullshit about how well they did by going toe-to-toe or anything like that. They didn't want to hear any of it. Let's see. Brett says, I think he throws it to Wandale a second too soon. Interesting on the play where Wandale got tackled in the red zone and they kicked a field goal. Wandale made a comment. He said, I was hoping to get the ball a little bit earlier, is what he said. Christopher said, if Nabers gets 20 targets but we don't score, what's the point? Daboll needs to spread the ball around more. Guys have to be open and be real weapons too, though. Barber says, I noticed on Nabers, Pat, he took some big hits and it adds up, no doubt. Brett says, I thought Nabers blew his knee out on that one play. Keep Hyatt on the field next game. No, it was a concussion, but yeah, it was scary. It wasn't moving. Yes, the Cowboys did get banged up in this game. D-Kit, no doubt. Let's see. Authentic makes a good point. He says, I'm sure you all talked about it. 22 rushes for 24 yards. So actually, it was 24 rushes for 26 yards for 1.1 a carry. Devin Singletary, 14 carries for 24 yards and another fumble. Like, it wasn't called a fumble. Very close to being a fumble. Do running backs matter? I don't know. Big Mike says, need the Cam Ward throw montage bad after this win or after this loss, Authentic. That's funny. Authentic says, I got you, Big Mike. Authentic is the man. Brett said the trivia question was a trick question because the Giants never beat the Cowboys. Mick says, Flott played well. What is going on with tight end not being used in the passing game? Flott played better, but he had some up and down. Like, it was up and down. He didn't play well. He was up and down. That's what I say. But he's competing. That's good to see. Tight ends not being used. Theo Johnson has shown a penchant for dropping some passes. Daniel Bellinger is a guy that you can tell they drafted over him with Theo Johnson. They signed Chris Manhertz. These tight ends are not fleet of foot. I mean, Dallas was putting like their slower linebacker on Theo Johnson, essentially knowing that he wasn't going to get thrown to. Really tough. So Theo Johnson, 48 snaps tonight. Let's see what the snaps look like. So 65 snaps for the offense. So that was Jones and the lineman. Nabers played 58. Slayton played 55. Singletary 45. Theo 45. Wandale 42. Manhertz 29. Daniel Bellinger only 11 snaps in this game. Bellinger has been essentially, for the most part, he played more snaps last game, but essentially phased out. The guys are just not weapons in the passing game. Hopefully, Theo Johnson grows into something more in that regard, but doesn't look promising there. I think what you're hoping for there is a good blocker who can be a weapon in the passing game at some point, at least in the red zone. Maurice says, Pat, I was at the game. Fans need to get fired up too relaxed in there for a Dallas Cowboys game. Interesting point, Maurice. I think, honestly, they were ready to explode if they saw something exciting come down. And they did get excited by the first 3 and out, but then Giants weren't able to score a touchdown and get them going. And I thought that was a part of it. I also think that, the one time I did hear them was when Daboll kicked that field goal on 4th and goal from the 3. Bill says, well, I'm in SoCal, so no biggie for me. I love late night football talk. But you might want to hit the sack soon. But I guess that's what the boom chaga is for. That's right. That's what the boom chaga is for. Let's see. Barbara, look at you pushing through. Tired, but staying a bit longer. Yeah, we're at 120 right now. Probably wrap it up by about 1:30. So I'm going to try to get down to the queue here, and then we'll get out of here. Brett says Barkley dropped all his would-be fumbles. That's funny. Andre says, well, they can run an effective screen now. That's true. But again, you don't want to be too predictable with that. Brett says, can we not go to Malik on 4th down next week, please? We will give him a complex. Bill points out that Saquon tipped 3 balls. Sounds good. Thank you. I'll be out of here then. Into interceptions last year, didn't he? Yeah, right. No, true. Barbara says the Giants' O-line is pretty good on pass blocking, but not on run blocking, it seems. Yep, agree. That was definitely the case tonight. Bill says John Mara is not the problem. He let Judge get Tony and is instead of taking Parsons. Yeah, bad mistake there. Brett says Theo Johnson reminds me of Herman Munster. He looks stiff. Oh, man. What a comment from Brett. D-Kit says Art Stapleton definitively stated the other day that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll aren't going anywhere at the end of the year, wondering how he could say this. Yeah, I can't say. That's a good question. I think really, if the Giants show progress and have an encouraging season in several ways, you can say that. But if they go in the tank record-wise and they can't win games and it's a horrible record and regression throughout the organization and the team, it's very difficult to sit and say that. So I would never say that. I agree. Simeon says, is Daboll shell-shocked too and won't let Jones wait until the routes are past the yard marker? I don't know. Yeah, I definitely think it partially probably a lack of trust in the quarterback. Brett says we traded up to get Hyatt to get 13 snaps a game. Yeah, Maurice, offensive game plan. I thought ball control, but, you like to see aggressiveness into the end zone. Need to score touchdowns. And I would have gone for that 4th and 3 in the red zone. Big Dog says Shane doesn't deserve to get his own quarterback, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't think he's drafted well at all. Brett says third quarter was calling for all passing plays on my TV while I was boom chugging Budweiser. We lost but didn't get beat. Young Hendrick says, think Daboll has enough trust in Daniel to open up his playbook all the way. I think we're going to find that out because right now I think the conservative nature of the play calling is partly related to probably trying to protect Daniel. He does take shots, but targeted shots. Let's see. Jim points out anyone who is alpha doesn't brag about it. Agree. If you're good, you don't have to tell anybody. Authentic points out 7 in a row and 13 versus Dak. Yet Dak becomes only the 4th quarterback ever to beat an opponent 13 times in a row. It's Brian Greasy, Tom Brady, and Steve Young, I believe, was the stat. Yeah, Bob Greasy. Did I say Brian Greasy? Bob Greasy. Bob Greasy against the Buffalo Bills, Steve Young against the Rams, Tom Brady against the Bills as well, and now Dak Prescott against the Giants. 4 quarterbacks ever to beat the same opponent 13 times in a row. Brett agrees. Put Evan Neal at guard, get the running game going. Barbara says, Pat, who do you think was the worst? McAdoo, Shermer, and Judge. I think Judge was a good head coach. Offensively, he was limited. But I think Judge was a good CEO coach. I do, personally. Obviously, it got ugly near the end. I actually think it goes best to worst head coach there. I would go Judge best, Shermer worst, McAdoo in the middle. Michael says, anyone notice the Giants have not scored a home touchdown this year? We did notice, Michael, and thank you for pointing that out. Also, I believe the stat now is they've scored, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they've scored like 15 points in the second half in 4 games, like total. I think they have 15 second half points. Josh points out that the Giants and the Cowboys both suck. Yeah, this was not a fun game to watch. I mean, I love my job. Not a fun game to watch. Yike says, Chris Canty said 2 days ago that Joe Burrow did not do enough to win his football game Monday night. His stat line was 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, and a quarterback rating of 127.5. I love it. I love it. Yeah, Brett points out that Judge wasn't that bad. Yeah, no, for sure. I thought Joe was good. Gettleman was just ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous. Yike says, I find that take to be highly frustrating. Let me see. Oh, the Chris Canty take. The team I root for, literally half a fan base says guy's playing well, and he throws for 281, 0 touchdowns, interception, 81.5 rating, and includes me having no scoring confidence. These are good questions about, is Daboll holding back in the playbook with Daniel? I just think it's about, I really do think yes, that's part of it. I think that they are max protecting more than they have in the past, and then there's fewer guys running routes, and then they're trying to get the ball out and accompany the pressure and the max protect. It's all designed to try to help Daniel Jones. It's all designed to help Daniel Jones, like, not get hit and to have time to deliver the football. But it's resulting in not enough plays down the field and explosives. Joshua says, Pat Leonard looks like a Sopranos character. I will take that as a compliment. So you're saying I look like a TV star. I appreciate that. Devonta Adams won't change a thing if Jones can't hit deep shots, Big Dog says. We need a quarterback, people, not more weapons. Mickey says, yes, we need Cam Ward. Andre says, do they need to bring the fullback back to run the ball? They have used the fullback at times. Nothing's working right now. Authentic says, I say that too, Pat. Our community is great. It really is. Yeah, with everybody learning from each other, no doubt. Mark says, I figure Neil less pass pro risk at guard. Right. They just refuse to try him at guard. Evan thinks Daniel Jones should still be the starter. Jonathan says, give Daboll his opportunity to draft his quarterback next year before this hot seat talk. Barbara says, Dimes knows this is his last year on the Giants no matter what. Yes, Evan, I am still at MetLife. We'll be wrapping up soon. He played good for DJ. For his standards are very low. I think they praise him just to keep his confidence, is what Mike said. Yeah, probably. The team is clearly limited because of Daniel Jones. It's way bigger than this one game, says Mike Jones. Tony points out, I did not see Elijah Chapman tonight. That is a very good point by you. Listen to these snap counts on defense. Elijah Chapman played only 14 snaps in this game. Nacho played 33 on the interior, and then DJ Davidson played 19. So just to give you an idea of how that stacks up to what they've been doing, Chapman has played 24, 16, and 21. So Chapman had been playing he had played 30%, 31% of the team snaps coming in. And in this game, it's still around there, 27.5. But yeah, wasn't as effective, obviously, compared to Cleveland either. Socrates says, what gets me is the media and definitely Dallas fans are going to say the Cowboys are back and they handled the Giants. Fact is, the Cowboys played down to us and we played up. Yeah, Socrates, I personally don't think people are coming. Maybe, but I would say the dogs are off Mike McCarthy, coming out of this game for a week, right? Because of, obviously if they lost and went to 0-3, it would have been like the sky is falling and for good reason. So I would say maybe, it's not people panicking about the Cowboys coming out of the game. Now, but that said, I don't think anyone's under the delusion coming out of this that the Cowboys look like they fixed everything. I mean, I definitely don't think. Barbara says, I have to hit the sack, work in the morning. Good night, everyone. Pat, I enjoy your live streams. Barbara, thanks so much. Thanks so much. You really helped drive the conversation tonight. Thank you. Richard says, can we say this is an old school game? And yes, it's time to bench running back and Jones. Interesting. Chris says, what's more true? Shane and scouts aren't evaluating and drafting well enough, or Daboll and his staff aren't developing the players well enough? Shane's picks aren't panning out. I think it's more true that Shane and scouts' picks are not the good enough players. Like I don't have confidence in Daboll as a game manager, but I think it's when you're just the question you posed, I think it's more true that the draft picks aren't panning out than that the players aren't developing. Mike says we have a quarterback that does not inspire the team or fan base. It's obvious. Mark Sullivan says Greg Joseph's dad, my optometrist's son, was really pissed. Greg Joseph's dad is my optometrist's son. Was really pissed Vikings cut him just to save some money. Joseph was a giant killer. Yeah, he did kill them when he was in Minnesota in that one game for sure. Very interesting there. Too bad they didn't have him to kick those 2 field goals against the Vikings. Greg seems like a nice guy, though. I'm glad he got bounced back and hit these 5. Evan says I could only imagine what will happen next week against Seattle and then against the Bengals and Eagles and Steelers. Yeah. Lucas says, I would be calling the Ravens if you want receiving from your tight ends. Ours are very mediocre. Brett says, we were a second half team and did jack in the first. What happened? Second half team? What are you talking about? It was 6 points in the second half? Brett says, how different was Bowen's defense this week compared to last week? I didn't see Pinnock or McFadden on many blitzes. Did Simmons play? Too soft. Simmons played 13 snaps. Duke Shelley factored in a little bit. Nick McLeod was back. McLeod played 33 snaps. Micah McFadden played a lot, 38 snaps at linebacker. Simmons came in a dime package at linebacker. The plan was different against the Browns. I definitely think they saw something in Watson's inability to process and how slowly he was able to see the field. And they knew that for Dak, they needed people in coverage and that they would be able to get the ball out quickly and kind of expose things. And also, that blitzing against Cleveland, I have to imagine that Daboll maybe had a hand in that or something because that was very out of character for Bowen. I don't think you're going to see that a lot. Mike says Singletary looked off tonight, a step slow, no gloves, was nasty work. Bill says all the locker room footage I'm seeing is depressing. Yeah, the players are pissed. Players are pissed. Oh, Mark, you meant Greg Joseph's dad is your optometrist. Got it. Yeah, okay, I figured. Yeah, I was a little confused there. So many drops, VF says. DJ played well. Oh, Brett's pointing out last couple seasons we were a second-half team. Yeah, I mean, more juice, better defense previous seasons, more attack mindset, better overall game plan, I think. Lucas says, thanks, Pat. Have a good night. You too, Lucas. This has been a great chat, everybody. I'm sponsored here on the Talkin Ball Live with Pat Leonard postgame by Bet Online. Bet Online. It used to be sponsored by Bet Online. Old habits die hard. Sponsored here by mybookie.ag. I think they'll allow me one slip up. Mybookie.ag. Pat's Picks is the promo code. Go download Pat's Picks on your Oh, I see another question coming in here from Chris. Chris says, do you get a sense the players are going to turn on Daboll at this point? Lucas, I don't know. I mean, it's, Simmons is a player that wasn't happy, voiced it. Hyatt is a player that wasn't happy, voiced it. I think if the losing continues, you could see something like that happen with this team based on the dynamic I've seen, which is why I was reporting everything I was at the beginning of the season before they got their first win. So I think it's still on that kind of watch for sure. So let me try this again. It's late. It's after 2 a.m., but we are sponsored here by MyBookie. MyBookie is proud to partner with Talkin Ball Live with Pat Leonard, and they have a promo code. It's called Pat's Picks. If you use that on the link on all of my social media profiles, if you're a sports bettor, somebody who likes to bet the over, likes to bet the under, likes to bet underdogs are really hot this season in the NFL, or likes to play the prop bets like my Rico Daboll rushing yards and carries prop that both hit tonight, go to mybookie.ag, click on the link in any of my social media profiles, use the promo code Pat's Picks, and you will get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. Make every football season a winning season with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Also, if you're already a member, sign up for their rewards program, MyBookie Plus. Also sponsored by Estate 98 Coffee. Go to estate98.com/talkinball to get a special buy one, get one free deal on this natural, all natural specialty coffee with no sugar. And brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink. Natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. It has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. That's Boom Chaga. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkinBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you'll get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. Brett says, thank you. Thanks a lot, Pat. They turned the lights out on you. Be safe. He also says, I think the players are ready to rumble next game. If we lose, it's over in the locker room. Bill says, Pat, go to bed, go home. We care about you, Pat. All right, on that note, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple, Spotify for audio, on the PL and NFL YouTube page here, on the Believe Network. This is Pat Leonard from the New York Daily News, signing off from MetLife Stadium. Giants 1-3 in the basement of the NFC East. Big stakes going into Week 5 against the Seattle Seahawks on the road. Jonathan Pride checks in with Boom Chaga and Illmatic. Much love, Pat. Keep going. See you guys next time on Talkin Ball Postgame Live.